Most of life runs on a highly predictable mechanical loop. You wake up, commute, spend 4 hours on a factory floor or at an office desk, eat, work for 4 more hours, and sleep. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday all follow the exact same rhythm. We follow this path easily for years, but eventually a quiet weariness sets in, and one day the routine breaks. Out of nowhere, a single question abruptly interrupts the automated cycle. Why? The absurd arises from a violent collision between two incompatible forces. We inhabit a universe that is silent and chaotic, yet we are biologically hardwired to demand order, reason, and an overarching purpose. When those two forces collide, they bounce off each other, leaving a massive vacuum. You realize that the cosmos does not care about your career path, your personal legacy, or the fact that you exist at all. Staring into that void forces a choice. Once you discover there is no master plan handed down from above, you have to decide exactly how you are going to survive the rest of your life. The first logical off-ramp is nihilism. This path argues that because nothing matters on a cosmic scale, all human action is ultimately pointless. The only rational response to a meaningless universe is despair or total inaction. Most people reject that despair. They prefer a second, much more popular route, existentialism. This philosophy argues that the absence of a pre-written destiny is actually a gift. Without a grand design holding you down, you possess radical freedom. You get to create your own purpose. Thinkers like Jean-Paul Sartre championed this approach. Because there is no higher power to conceive human nature, he argued that you arrive in the world as a blank slate. You must write yourself into existence through daily choices and personal passions. This idea swept through mid-century intellectual circles. Writers like Simone de Beauvoir framed this freedom as the original condition of all justification. If the universe refuses to give you meaning, you simply invent it. You decide what matters, and that makes it real. It sounds deeply empowering. Yet this requirement to artificially construct a purpose creates a logical loophole. It sets the stage for a major philosophical schism. Albert Camus looked at this mainstream existentialist solution and disagreed entirely. To Camus, inventing your own meaning is philosophical suicide. It acts as a psychological coping mechanism to avoid staring directly into the void. You are still hoping for something out there to validate your life, even if you had to make it up yourself. To explain his alternative, Camus pointed to the ancient myth of Sisyphus. The gods condemned Sisyphus to push a massive boulder to the top of a mountain, only to watch it roll back down to the valley. He must repeat this meaningless labor for eternity. Camus focuses on a very specific moment in the story, the pause when Sisyphus walks back down the mountain to retrieve the stone. In that moment of descent, Sisyphus is fully conscious of his wretched condition. He knows his task is pointless, and he refuses to pretend otherwise. That unblinking awareness makes him stronger than his fate. For an absurdist, victory does not come from making up a fake reason to push the rock. Victory comes from defiant awareness. You look at the absurdity, you scorn it, and you push the rock anyway. But how does an absurdist actually act? If you accept the universe as a joke, what do you do when faced with real-world injustice or societal collapse? Camus finds his answer in the act of rebellion. When a person finally says no to an oppressor, they are asserting that a boundary exists which must be respected. By claiming this limit for themselves, they are asserting it for all people. This shared human dignity becomes our only certain value in a universe that offers no other. This abstract theory met violent reality during the Algerian War of Independence. Abstract debates about freedom suddenly involved real colonial oppression, real bombs, and real casualties. Contemporaries like the psychiatrist and revolutionary Frantz Fanon argued that extreme violent tactics were justified to achieve liberation. To Fanon, tearing down a brutal regime required an equally brutal response. Albert Camus drew a strict boundary here. He argued that the absurdist must fight tyranny, but they must entirely reject the logic that the ends justify the means. Replacing an old system of oppression with a new murderous regime betrays the very human life you are supposed to be protecting. This philosophy scales all the way back down to the individual. When you abandon the crushing pressure to fulfill a cosmic destiny, you are finally free. You can deeply engage with art, beauty, and human connection right now, exactly where you are. True liberation begins with the unblinking acceptance of the void. We find our meaning by consciously and rebelliously choosing to live joyfully in spite of a silent universe.